Hello everybody and welcome back to another modelled writing video. Glad to have you here today, and if you've been with us before then you'll know how these videos are structured, but if you are new here, welcome. And today we are going to tackle task 2 questions. So task 2 are the longer essay style questions which you'll encounter in the writing part of the IELTS exam, and they require you to write a minimum of 250 words, and there's no upper limit actually. So minimum of as long as you write 250 words, then that's the main thing, and you'll have 40 minutes to write this question. So we'll look at two different types today. They're two different styles of question. So we will think about how we would structure them, we'll get our plan together, and then we will do our write-up as if we are in the exam itself. So if that sounds interesting to you, maybe you've booked your IELTS exam, maybe you just want a bit more information on task 2 in particular, then you're in the right place, definitely. Okay, well, let's get started then. And we're looking at the first topic, which is all about examinations. So examinations could be quite broad. It might be at university level, might be things like the IELTS exam itself, school level. So let's have a look at the question. Formal examinations are the only effective way to assess a student's performance. Continual assessment, such as coursework and projects, is not a satisfactory way to do this. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? Right, so the first thing that jumps out to me is this phrase here, to what extent, because now I know what type of question I am looking at. And then it's followed by agree or disagree. So we can see this type of question as soon as you see this. It's asking you, okay, how much do you agree? You know, where do you stand on the line? You could completely agree wholeheartedly, and that could be your approach to this question. You could also agree and disagree. So you could do one paragraph agreeing, one paragraph disagreeing, or you could completely, wholly disagree with this statement that's being described in the question. So I quite like these questions because it gives you a bit more flexibility, and you can think, okay, well, what is the easiest way I can write this essay? Because we're not looking for, the examiner's never going to know if this is your true opinion. It doesn't have to match your true opinion. As long as you are writing with the idea of, okay, well, how can I best answer this question? And we want to make it as simple as possible. We don't want to overcomplicate it. We have limited time, so we just want to make it as straightforward as we can. Alrighty then, let's go into the plan. So the plan is very important to keep focused, keep on track, and part of the criteria for marking is, well, have you answered the question? Have you written relevant points? And in that case, for this reason, then we would a plan is essential for that. Okay, so paragraph 1, this is talking about the first main body, and paragraph 2 is the second, and then it's an opinion question, so we'll just restate our opinion in the conclusion, and it's nice to write that in the plan so we stay focused. Okay, so paragraph 1, what are we thinking? Let's have maybe a read of the statement again. So we need to decide whether we agree that formal examinations are the only effective way to assess a student's performance. Coursework, on the other hand, is not satisfactory. It's not an acceptable way to um, not quite acceptable. That's maybe the wrong word, but it's not the best way to assess students' performance. Right, so I can definitely agree. I can think of the idea that with formal examinations there is less bias. So then we can develop this point. What we'll do is we'll write a topic sentence, and then we will develop this further by talking about how coursework there may be bias with coursework. So we could say unlike coursework where there is bias, and then we'll use examples for that. Maybe we could think of A levels or university level. Okay, so we'll talk about the bias and the less bias with formal examinations, and that's why they're effective. Paragraph 2. Oh, let's have a think. We could talk about how the exams are unknown entity. Maybe I'll agree again, actually. Agree. Exams are unknown. Therefore, they require more knowledge or wider breadth of knowledge. Unlike course, and then we'll compare this again to coursework. Unlike coursework, which is known beforehand. So sometimes the coursework, it might be released weeks before the deadline. They might be perhaps even, best part of a year sometimes. And we could talk about the fact that perhaps students who undertake master's degrees, and if their master's degree is mostly coursework based, then they leave that master's degree with much less information than at undergraduate level. So we can talk about the differences there. Okay, so for this essay, I think it might be the easiest to completely agree with the statement. And we'll write that there just so that we stay focused for this one. Alrighty, well, these are just notes, so we don't have to worry about making full sentences and things like that. But there we go. You can do some scribble. You're not going to get assessed for your notes, but you'll have this with you so that you can refer back to it, which is nice for the exam. All right, so we've planned out our 2 paragraphs. We know which route we're going to take, which opinion we're going to side with. We're completely agreeing for this one. So I think we can get started with the write-up. Okay, so you might be thinking, oh, I don't know how to begin this. Where do we start? Well, not to worry, we'll talk through that today. So a really important skill for IELTS, and something that you'll be that the examiner will be looking for, not only task 2, actually for task 1 as well, is this idea of paraphrasing. So putting sentences into your own words, but with that, keeping the meaning. So we don't want to become inaccurate with what we're saying. We want to keep the meaning, the same, but we want to put it into our own words as much as possible. So let's have a practice at that today. I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay. So formal examinations. Let's write this. We could say maybe on-site assessments, because usually formal exams are done in a hall or somewhere on site, like a campus or something like this. So on-site assessments are the only effective, maybe are the are an appropriate method. Maybe are we could say are the only. It's okay to maybe repeat that bit, so we don't have to paraphrase every single word. We can keep a few in there. That's all right. Are the only appropriate method to assess a student's performance. Oh, how should we write that? Maybe to grade the academic ability of a pupil. Okay, and we're always checking spelling as we're going along. That's a big factor of these essays. And we're always rereading and editing as well so that we make sure everything sounds okay. Right, that's the first sentence. We've now got another one to do. So, continual assessments. We could say long-term projects, maybe. Such as coursework. It's hard to find another word for coursework. So that's okay. Long-term projects such as coursework. We've got projects. Long-term, let's think. We could say, we could use the word from the question, but in a different way. That's all right. Long-term examinations such as coursework and projects. We can. Is not a satisfactory way to do this. Maybe we could say are not as accurate. Okay, let's read this back. On-site assessments are the only appropriate method to grade the academic ability of a pupil. Long-term examinations such as coursework and projects are not as accurate. Now let's lay out what we're going to do for the essay. So we could say something like a nice way to state your opinion. I completely, I wholeheartedly, I fully endorse, which means agree, this view. And for the purpose of this essay, I will illustrate my reasons. Something like that. That's quite a nice way to open this up. I fully endorse this view, and for the purpose of this essay, I will illustrate my reasons. Okay, so that is our introduction then. That's what we're going to do. We paraphrase and then we say what we're going to do in the essay. This essay is an opinion essay, so we use I, and then we state our opinion. Other questions, as you'll see from our videos, are not opinion questions, so you wouldn't use I so much. We're not, the examiner isn't looking for your input so much as just your laying out the two sides. But for this, we want to use our opinion. Okay, so let's go through our first paragraph, which is all about this bias idea. So we're going to start with a topic sentence, and let's just lay out what we're going to argue. So the fact that it would be maybe preferable for students to be assessed through formal examination, through maybe we could say invigilated exams cannot be denied. So we're just opening this up nicely there. Cannot be denied. The main reason is that the assessment itself is by nature much less likely to be biased. This is due to the fact that the papers will, that's when we're explaining why, will be sent off to be marked by external examiners maybe not, yeah, examiners. Therefore, the identity of the student or of the person taking the exam remains unknown. Or we could say, therefore, the person taking the exam stays anonymous, so their identity is not known. All right, so we're laying out our first point here. Now let's counteract this with coursework. On the other hand, compared with when this is compared with other forms of, or maybe with less formal or maybe more relaxed forms of grading. When this is compared with more relaxed forms of assessing, like projects, it is clear it is difficult to separate the conception of the student that the marker will have, as more often than not it will be the subject teacher, we could say, who is grading. Okay, so we're comparing now with courseworks and why they are not satisfactory. So let's put in an example. So this can be seen at A levels, for instance. Let's talk about how there might be a difference between on-site examinations and maybe coursework, where oftentimes there is we can say, clear discrepancy. That's a nice way of describing this difference. There's a clear discrepancy between between timed exams in the under we could say something like maybe timed papers under exam conditions, and coursework in which the individual could do maybe in their free time. Maybe not in their do unsupervised, let's say unsupervised. Okay, so this we can talk about how this then shows that positive or negative bias is affecting the coursework. So this demonstrates the impact of bias, and we could use a bracket. I quite like a bracket. Positive or negative on the grading of the coursework. Grading of the take-home or informal project. As long as we're not repeating ourselves too much, that's the main thing. Informal projects. Therefore, formal ways of testing is more reliable. So we're always linking back to the question. Let's read this back and have a think about how it sounds. The fact that it would be preferable for students to be assessed through invigilated exams cannot be denied. The main reason is that the assessment itself is, by nature, much less likely to be biased. This is due to the fact the papers will be sent off to be marked by external examiners. Therefore, the person taking the exam stays anonymous. On the other hand, when this is compared with more relaxed forms of assessing, like projects, maybe I'll put in an extra, like projects, it is difficult to separate the conception of the student that the marker will have, as more often than not, it will be the subject teacher who is grading. This can be seen at A levels, for instance, where oftentimes there is a clear discrepancy between timed papers under exam conditions and coursework in which the individual could do unsupervised. This demonstrates the impact of bias, positive or negative, on the grading of the informal project. Therefore, formal ways of testing is more reliable. Okay, I think I just want to make it a bit clearer why the subject teacher will have who was be the subject teacher who knows the pupil grading. Let's make this a bit better actually. As more often than not, it will be the subject teacher grading, and of course they will know the student. There we go. So you can see it's really important to go back and edit and just make things, make sure things sound smooth, check grammar, check tense, check all of those things. Those small things, they seem small, but they actually make a big difference in the exam. Okay, then, so we want to now develop our next point, which is all about the release date. So for coursework, the coursework is known long before, whereas exams, students have to be really prepared because they take it on the day and they don't know what's going to come up, basically. So let's just do our topic question statement here. So another reason as to why informal assessments cannot be depended upon is the fact that a student has to be, or maybe we can switch it around. Let's focus on exams. Why on-site tests can are much more dependable or are a much more accurate or maybe fair, much more fair way of assessing is have we used due to the fact? We've used the fact is another reason as to why on-site tests are a much more fair way of assessing is because the students only know what they will be discussing on the day, on the day. On the day of sitting it, referring to the test. Okay, so we're opening up the next paragraph here. Let's dive into some more detail. Thus, another way of saying therefore, thus a student or an individual will, thus an individual, in order to be prepared, is required. We can talk about to know a broader range or have a broader focus, required to have knowledge on about the subject in a broader way. Oh, not broader way, broader. Oh, broader way. And then we can say that, well, this will lead to the student being much more engaged with the subject. This will lead, or this leads the student to have a better grasp, we can say, of the better grasp or yeah, to have knowledge about the subject in a broader way. Maybe something like, and therefore a more thorough understanding. Thorough understanding. Okay, so we're saying why formal exams push students into understanding the subject in a bit of a deeper way. Let's now talk about the coursework side of things. So, on the other hand, that's a nice way to show the other side. On the other hand, other forms of grading allow individuals to know what they are working towards or what they are focusing on in advance. Sometimes the best part of a year. Of a year. Of a year. So in this case, this leads them to just knowing a small area of the subject as a whole. This leads the student to become maybe proficient in that micro area, as they know this is all they will need to pass. Let's now put in an example just to tie this all together. Masters. Let's talk about how sometimes masters can be all coursework. And this leads to students having actually not as good of a handle of the subject as perhaps undergraduate. Degrees can be completed through entirely completed through coursework. For instance, in this case, participants, another word for students, participants, are less engaged and they let's compare it to undergraduates are less engaged and knowledgeable in their field. Knowledgeable, we're checking our spelling, in their field. Compared to other masters courses which utilize exams. Okay, let's read this back. This is quite a long one. Let's have a look. So, another reason as to why on-site tests are a much more fair way of assessing. Let's say are more fair, are a more, or are a fairer way of assessing is because the students only know what they will be discussing on the day. Let's put that. Thus, an individual, in order to be prepared, is required to have knowledge about the subject in a broader way. Maybe we could say is required to have broader or a broader scope of knowledge. That's quite nice. A broader scope of knowledge and therefore a more thorough. We're sort of repeating ourselves here. On the other hand, other forms of grading allow individuals to know what they are focusing on in advance, sometimes the best part of a year. This leads to students becoming this leads the student to become proficient in that micro area, as they know this is all they will need to pass. Master's degrees can be entirely completed through coursework, for instance. In this case, participants are less engaged and knowledgeable in their field compared to other master's courses which utilize exams. Okay, so as you can see, we've gone back, we've edited, taken some away, rephrased, and that's definitely something you can do in the exam just to make sure everything's okay grammatically and also that it sounds okay and you're not repeating yourself too much, you've got a strong argument, we're not using irrelevant, for example, if we've already stated something, in other words, then we don't need to repeat ourselves. So really important there. Okay, let's tie this all together and we're just going to open with, in conclusion, it is clear that formal exams are the sole way in which an individual's knowledge can be accurately tested, as there is less bias and there is less bias, and also through this method a pupil is more well-rounded. Another way of saying they have more sort of general knowledge about the subject, makes them a bit more, if they were to go on to do further education, then they would be better prepared. So, okay, let's think about the words. So we're looking for a minimum of 250. Okay, so from my calculations, that comes to 366 words. So it is on the high end of probably what is possible to write in the exam, but it's given you a nice structure to follow. And if you were aiming for perhaps a bit less, then you could take out a point from each paragraph, perhaps, to make it a bit more succinct there. But at least you followed the structure of the essay, which is a very important part. And then you can include your own examples and your own points and topic sentences and explanations. That's wonderful. All right then. Well, that was our first question of the day. To what extent? So now let's go into another question, and it's a different style of question as well. So it's all to do with global warming. Now, this is quite a common topic to come up. It's quite popular, global warming, and that's interconnected with other ideas like fuel and environmental impacts. It's connected to lots of different things. So this is definitely something to be aware of. And in this case, when you've got a topic that's very broad and can encompass lots of different areas, then that's quite good in a way, because you can apply your examples to different types of topics within this umbrella of global warming, for example. So let's dive in and see what we're looking at. Developed countries have created many environmental problems in the world, particularly in their contribution to global warming. Why is global warming a problem? And what can be done to reduce the dangers of global warming? Alrighty, so we have a two-part question here. Why is global warming a problem? What's causing this? And what can be done to reduce the dangers of global warming? Alrighty, so let's go into our plan, as now we know plans are integral. And we want to address each question in each paragraph. So the first question, why is global warming a problem? Let's do that in paragraph 1. And we are going to talk about, maybe a couple of points for each paragraph. So perhaps, why is global warming a problem? Well, the CO2 levels, why is it a problem? So we're thinking, well, this increase of CO2 leads to natural disasters, such as hurricanes, tsunamis, even things like this. So we can focus on that for the problems. And what can be done? We can maybe add to this. What can be done to reduce the dangers of global warming? So let's think along the lines of alternative sources of energy, like solar power. So we're not burning fossil fuels. Let's do CO2 levels rising. Let's do natural disasters. Let's think of some more impacts. Melting ice and changing habitats, causing extinction. Extinction. There we go. Ooh. Okay, so alternative sources of energy, that could be one way that we might reduce the dangers. Let's have a look. Maybe individuals can use their power in terms of maybe they can change transport and eating habits to have a lower carbon footprint. Okay, so I think that's good. We've talking about why is it a problem? Why is it not okay that the global temperature is rising? And what can be done to reduce the dangers of global warming? Okay. So, with that in mind, then let's go to our write-up, and we know what to do now. We need to paraphrase the first, or in this case, sentence, this one here. So developed countries, maybe we could say nations that have industrialized and modernized, maybe. Modernized. Have, we're British English, that's okay. Nations that have industrialized and modernized have created many environmental problems, have produced a plethora, many, of issues connected with our natural world, with a striking impact on maybe this has it's quite tricky, particularly in their contribution to global warming, especially their impact or their negative impact on the rising global temperatures. Let's read this back. Nations that have industrialized and modernized have produced a plethora of issues connected with our natural world, especially their negative impact on the rising global temperatures. Um, instead of especially their contributions, quite hard to paraphrase their part to play with rising global temperatures. There we go. Especially their part to play with rising global temperatures. Okay, so this is not an opinion question. We're just going to answer the two questions in the essay. So we'll state that this essay will discuss the reasons why global warming is in fact an issue, and also if there or and also the possible solutions to this. This essay will discuss the reasons why global warming is in fact an issue and also the possible solutions to this. So we're just laying out what we're going to do as we did in the last one and all task twos. Okay, so why is global warming an issue then? Let's do a nice opening statement. We could say something along the lines of our globe is increasingly getting hotter, and this is causing catastrophic. So we're opening up what we're going to be talking about. Catastrophic situations. And this is causing catastrophic situations. Okay, let's talk about the impact of on natural disasters. Okay, so rising or unpredictable weather patterns, or one reason why this is I want to state what we're saying. So one reason why, or maybe the biggest, one of the biggest issues with a warmer world is unpredictable weather patterns. This affects animals and humans gravely. A devastating impact is the increase of natural disasters, such as hurricanes, and we could connect it to global warming, maybe droughts or such hurricanes and tsunamis, maybe. Let's talk about the tsunami in 2004 as an example. The 2004 tsunami had affected millions of humans and wildlife destroying lives, communities, and causing a maybe a global panic, perhaps, because it did, causing a global panic. Okay, let's now head into our other situation. So, why is this such an issue? This is connected with other other terrible events caused by global warming, such as the ice caps melting and habitats being lost. Animals all over the world are increasingly finding it hard to survive in such volatile conditions. Perhaps their home is now too close to humans, or underwater with the rising sea temperatures, the rising sea levels. And then let's do a line about how this inevitably impacts humans too. In the future, many cities will be underwater. These are just a few reasons why global warming is an emergency. Let's read this back. Our globe is increasingly getting hotter, and this is causing catastrophic situations. One of the biggest issues with a warmer world is unpredictable weather patterns. This affects animals and humans gravely. A devastating impact is the increase of natural disasters, such as hurricanes and tsunamis. The 2004 tsunami affected millions of animals and wildlife, destroying lives, communities, and causing a global panic. This is connected with other terrible events caused by the heat, such as ice caps melting and habitats being lost. Animals all over the world. Are increasingly finding it hard to survive in such volatile conditions. Perhaps their home is now too close to humans or underwater with the rising sea levels. This inevitably impacts humans too, and in the future, many cities will be underwater. These are just a few reasons why global warming is an emergency. Okay then, so that sounds good. We've edited. Let's go into the solutions now. Even though these events are dire, there are ways in which we can help remedy, or we can remedy them, remedy this to an extent. Firstly, or the most convenient, or the the strategy which could be implemented in every country could be, let's talk about sources of renewable, could be renewable energy sources such as solar. Additionally, public, such as solar, maybe we could put in order to stop burning fossil fuels and contributing to the CO2 levels. Additionally, public transport could be utilized and made much more convenient, motivating individuals to travel in a more environmentally friendly way. Let's talk about the government actually. The government could utilize public transport and make it much more convenient. Utilize motivating individuals to travel in a more environmentally friendly way. On the matter of on the micro level, maybe people could address their travel and eating habits more generally and aspire to lessen their carbon footprints. For instance, eating more for instance, eating more plant-based. That could be another tactic. Okay, let's read this back. Even though these events are dire, there are ways in which we can remedy this to an extent. The strategy which could be implemented in every country could be renewable energy sources or renewable energy, such as solar, in order to stop burning fossil fuels and contributing to the CO2 levels. Additionally, the government could utilize public transport and make it more convenient, much more convenient, motivating individuals to travel in a more environmentally friendly way. On a micro level, people could address their travel and eating habits more generally and aspire to lessen their carbon footprint by, for instance, eating more plant-based. Brilliant. We've edited that and we made sure it sounds okay. So let's tie it all together. In summary, global warming is a large problem due to the rising temperatures, which have a wide impact. However, there are various ways to tackle this issue, such as renewable energy. Alrighty then, let's count the words of this essay, a bit of a shorter one today. Okay, so that brings us to 311 words, so just over the 250 limit there, but you can see how we've tackled that question, and that's the most important thing. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed those 2 questions today, 2 different types of questions. We love to hear from you, so let us know if you've got any questions for us or comments, and we'll see you next time.